Jason Davis, Jared Dubois, we are here for Postgame. USA Canada play to a scoreless draw.
Postgame or postmortem?
201-430-2378. Go for it. You got thoughts? I mean, if they had managed to score at the end of that game, and a great save by Hirschfeld right at the end off of a set piece, if they had managed to score in that game, it would have just been, a cherry on top of a turd. That's what that would have been. Because that was...
stinker.
I don't know that I want to sit here and talk about that game for 30 minutes. I mean, we will because we owe it to the people, and I'm guessing some people will have some opinions on this, but I'm kind of just at a loss for words here. How do you wrap that up? How do you go from I don't know. How do you go from the way that they played 2 matches ago, and they showed signs against Brazil? I mean, it took a couple of great saves from Rafael to keep them from out of the net more than the one time. They managed to score a goal against Brazil. You go into I don't care if you're playing in Toronto or in Moose Jaw or whatever, the Yukon. You should score against Canada.
The shocking thing is that Canada played a game very, very similar to Scotland's. I mean, it wasn't much different at all in the way they chose to set up and how they chose to look for the counter. And the U.S. just couldn't find the same components. And the biggest thing to me is the biggest difference between watching that Scotland match and watching this one is that there was Donovan and Torres found such a good way to be in the middle and move the ball through the middle, the movement of the team. In this game, there's huge open spaces in the center where no one was taking advantage of the space. Everything was getting forced wide, and I don't think that's what the game that they played so well against Scotland. They went through the center, and then once they compacted, then they brought the ball out wide like an accordion and opened up the space. Where in here, Donovan was locked to the sideline all day long.
No, none of it worked. And if we're gonna make broad, I mean, look, it's a friendly. I mean, we got excited about the Scotland match because it showed something we hadn't seen before: a lot of fluid attacking play, interchanging, playing the ball quick and on the ground. Against Brazil, they tried it; it didn't work. Brazil was a better team. They got behind the 8 ball off the penalty that Neymar scored, and it didn't go well. Brazil was better. And they didn't show. They showed signs of life at the end, but it was still a kind of an underwhelming performance. This is the worst of the 3 by far. I mean, well, it's the worst of the two non-wins. It's the worst.
Yeah, well, it's the worst bit of play for sure. What I want to see is Jurgen Klinsmann come out in these post-game comments and say, we failed to find a way to make Bradley work in this. Because every time there was a change being made, it seemed like, okay, now they can get Bradley forward. Okay, now they can get Bradley into the game. And he still, even towards the end, is the guy that's behind Edu trying to pick up the ball and bring it forward. In my mind, when you bring Edu into that game, his role is to allow Bradley to relieve him of those defensive responsibilities and to be the guy that starts the attack, and Bradley can get forward now. And it wasn't happening all the way up to the end, and that was one of the biggest failures of this team on the night.
I feel like I need to play. I need like a horn blast or something. I need like my loud. We had no reason to play that. I'm just playing something. I'm trying to play something loud to wake up the people because I'm guessing most people fell asleep. I'm guessing they did. And
our producer said he fell asleep.
I gotta say, we feel bad for Taylor Twellman. Gave up floor seats to the Celtics to sit and watch that game or go wherever he watched that game. And it was the worst piece of garbage.
Right now, there's a whole side of the country that's pissed that they put off watching the beginning of Game of Thrones to finish watching that game, that match.
I would have been here doing the show no matter what. But yeah, could have been watching Game of Thrones. I'm recording it. Nobody calling it. Nobody calling it. All right.
But what I will say coming out of this game, the only bright spot, the man of the match for me, to be honest with you, Clarence Goodson. Yeah, Clarence Goodson was the only bright spot in this entire game for me, aside from Tim Howard. Tim Howard got called on a few times, obviously rose to the occasion each time. But for the outfield players, Clarence Goodson looked like a lock to me.
Yeah. Area code 609, who's this? Who's this?
Daniel.
Hey, what's up, Daniel?
Hey, that jersey, that Canada jersey, sick.
You like that's the best thing out of the match? The blue.
I agree. Umbro. I want to see Umbro in charge of the U.S. kits. I know they're owned by Nike and everything. Blah 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 blah.
Well, here's the thing. They're gonna Nike's dumping Umbro.
I know they're putting them up for sale.
Umbro's hemorrhaging cash. I don't know how much longer Umbro's gonna hold on. So
that kind of sick beauty costs money, I guess.
Yeah, right. So you have thoughts on the match itself, Daniel, or you just the jersey's the only good thing? The Canada jersey.
It wasn't much for rivalry.
Well, I mean, there was a little bit of heat back and forth, but it didn't matter because Canada was looking for their one chance, and they had a couple of thanks for the call, Daniel. They had a couple of things happening. They probably should have had a goal, whereas the U.S. is trying to do. I mean, this is the same thing over and over and over again. It doesn't matter if it's Bob Bradley, Bruce Arena, Bob Bradley, Jurgen Klinsmann. When the U.S. has more of the ball and has to break down a team packing it, I don't know what happened against Scotland. I don't know how that worked, but most of the time. It looks like this. This is CONCACAF. Area code 810. Who's this?
This is Brendan from Michigan.
What's up, Brendan?
Yeah, my question is, I'm just wondering why, after Bradley worked so well up top in that midfield group and scored that beautiful goal, that they would then, for 2 games, bring him in the back. I mean, he's so effective up front. I mean, even games before this, he's been great.
Well, I mean, the only way I can rationalize it, Jared, is to think that Jurgen Klinsmann, not only does Bradley have the skills to protect the back four, I mean, we know that, but also maybe Klinsmann's thinking of as the chain of events, the way that he wants the team to attack. It starts with Bradley, basically. We talked about this with Jason Keenley at the halftime show. It starts with Bradley now if he's playing in this position, and maybe Klinsmann has convinced him.
I think that the play of Jose Francisco Torres over the first 2 games has presented Klinsmann with a problem that I don't necessarily know that he was going to have to face, in that Dempsey was always going to be Dempsey and Donovan, and I think our mind going into the Scotland game, I think most people's minds, Jose Francisco Torres is going to bow out for Dempsey when he got there. He played himself into this team. He's made a lot of good even tonight. I think Jose Francisco Torres played decent, not great, but decent, better than probably Donovan played on the night. So I think that Klinsmann's presented with a problem now is that he has this player that's trying to play the way he wants to play, but he has 2 big names in Dempsey and Donovan. He's got to try to find a way to shoehorn into this team, and that's pushing Bradley further back on the field because he's relying on those 3 players to take at least some part of the role that Bradley was doing so well in the Scotland game.
Area code 619. Who's this? 619.
San Diego.
All right.
Hello?
Yeah, who's this?
Yeah, Enrique, great show, you guys.
What's up, man?
Basically, what I'm trying to say is good game on the tournament. The first game was a good game on the tournament, and the second game was, hey, we should have done better, scored the goals. Third game was a fluke. It's just
you think it was okay? Look,
I think we can.
What's a fluke is the goal that got called back.
Well, okay, that's not a fluke. That's a bad call. But okay, so I'm gonna look for all the positives, the ways to look at this as possible. You say that was just a really bad one-off night, because I'm seeing all this stuff on Twitter. Oh, they're going to struggle in Guatemala, and watch what happens when they don't qualify and stuff like that. Are we that far down because they draw 0-0 with Canada? Is that really where we're at?
It's the way it was drawn, Jason. Canada had the better chances on the night. That's the surprising thing.
I understand.
It's not the fact it's a draw. If you're taking it as a tournament standpoint, 4 points doesn't necessarily see you through the first round of a tournament.
No.
If you got 4 points, it comes down to goal differential a lot of the times. And luckily, the U.S. did have a 4-1 win, but they also lost by 3 goals the next game. So the U.S. may not qualify out of a group if this was the first 3 games. And if you get a first-round group that has Scotland and Canada in it, you're stoked, and you still probably didn't qualify.
Yeah. Well, okay. I mean, are we... look, it's a bad performance, and I'll leave you with this, Enrique, or let you go with this, Enrique. Are we worried about Antigua and Barbuda now? I mean, Guatemala, leave them aside. They're the second game. But are we worried about Antigua and Barbuda? No? All right.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still I mean, that's the get healthy game. I actually wrote it in my notes before the pregame show today. I said maybe after Brazil, Canada is the get healthy game. Clearly not. Either Canada's better than we thought they were, which I don't know that that's necessarily true, or the U.S. just came out flat for whatever reason. Maybe Klinsmann's running them too hard in practice. They're running 2-a-day practices, 2-a-day training. Maybe that's it. Area code 757. Who's this?
Hey, Will.
Hey, what's? Want to wrap it up for us?
I had a point. Is the whole trying to figure out where Dempsey fits in best with this team now? Has that become necessarily an issue with us now?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it. I mean, if you want to draw, I can't handle crying baby. if you want to draw some grand, completely out of the wall, off the wall conclusions based on one bad performance against Canada, I'm going to say this, Jared. They're not as good with Dempsey and the team as they are without him. Get Clint Dempsey out of this team. I mean, you
That's
can do
here. You think I didn't think about it? I don't want to be the one that says it. I don't want to be the one that says it. The guy who scores 20 goals in all competitions in the EPL this year. But it's a bit unfair because he hasn't been given the chance to find the role in this team in 20 minutes last game, 90 minutes this game. But in this 90 minutes tonight, he struggled to find a way into this game. And I don't know whether that's on him or that's on the players around him who are supposed to bring him into it. But I don't like seeing Clint Dempsey on the wrong side of the half line.
No, I agree. I mean, he was not able to put his stamp on this game. He was not able to find himself that moment. I mean, even if Dempsey doesn't score, he's always good for a couple of a little moments of finding space and smashing a shot that either at least threatens the keeper. He gets a couple things on goal. Maybe not he doesn't catch it clean. It's a weak shot, but he's at least threatening in that way. He wasn't any of that tonight. I mean, I'm struggling to remember any chance, reasonable half, third, whatever, where Clint Dempsey was directly involved.
I remember there's the good one give and go that he and Donovan were able to put together in the end of the first half, and I thought that was one of the more dangerous periods of this game for the U.S. But outside of that, I agree with you. I can't really think of a way that he got himself involved. I think he was struggling to find that as well. Does he stay up high where he's closer to the goal? Does he fall back and try to find the ball and be the person that creates the offense? He needs to have his role defined in this team. And in addition to that, if one's Batman and one's Robin, I mean, neither one of them stepped up to be a superhero tonight between Donovan and Dempsey.
Nope, not at all. How about this question? Okay, I make the wacky statement that maybe they're better without Clint Dempsey. I don't think that's necessarily true. You've got to get, if we were going to make a list of guys that have to be in the side every single time out, Clint Dempsey's first in that list. Yes. But maybe Fabian Johnson just made that much of a difference tonight, because I know Castillo was threatening on occasion, and he, defensively struggled a little bit, had the moment, probably should have been a goal for Canada. But in the first half an hour or so, he was pretty good, and then he kind of faded, and it wasn't as good anymore.
Yeah, he played no part in the second half.
Fabian Johnson, who is stronger on both ends of the field, frankly. I mean, Castillo is a decent player, but Fabian Johnson's a better attacking option, and he's a better defender. Maybe that's the difference. I mean, I don't know how that would fly necessarily. But
here's the thing. I think Torres played the same game, whether it was Castillo or Johnson in there. He opened up that lane, cut inside, and there was space all night long for the left back if they wanted it. So I agree with you that Castillo didn't take nearly as much advantage of that space. But in the second half, he seemed to kind of almost relinquish going forward, just stayed at home to make sure that nothing was exposed on the left. On the flip side of that, Trillo and Donovan looked on a different page all night. I can remember one sequence where Donovan just passed it right out of bounds. And that's kind of odd for them because they usually have a pretty good understanding of each other. But all night long, they seem to be in the same area, the same space. One of them's got to be further inside so the other one can overlap. They just seem to always be in the same area, the same 15, 20 yards of the field and in each other's way all night.
Yeah, no, it didn't, and that's the thing. If I or anybody for that matter try to throw it out there that they just had a bad night. Now, the United States has bad nights more often than they should, but I know they're better than that. I do. I'm convinced they're better than that. Maybe I don't have anything to back it up at the moment other than a 5-1 win against apparently a very bad Scotland team, but I know they're better than that. So maybe they just had an off night. I mean, it happens. Again, they had opportunities to cross the ball. Whether or not they could have found a head, I don't know. But they had opportunities to cross the ball, guys with free opportunities to do so. Nobody pressuring the ball, could have gotten good crosses in and just didn't do it. And I know that the guys that were hitting those crosses are better crossers of the ball than they showed. So it's an infectious, lackadaisical attitude or just something that happens to a team sometimes. You come out and you have a bad night. Now, if I try to say that, if I try to wash it away as a bad night, then we get the backlash. Oh, well, no, that's, you're just trying to make excuses. They're really not that good. They're going to struggle in Guatemala. Maybe they will.
They might.
They might, but I don't think that this game is evidence they're going to struggle in Guatemala. And I don't think the Brazil game is evidence that they're going to struggle in Guatemala. And I don't think the Scotland game is evidence they're going to go and demolish Guatemala. They're in the middle somewhere, right? They're in the middle somewhere. We want to see continued progression, and it looked like they had done that. Is this a step back? Is this game a step back?
Yeah, I would say so, because I'd rather have the 4-1 loss to Brazil than the 0-0 draw to Canada because of the way the team played in those two matches. I'd rather have the team that, for the last 20, 30 minutes of that game, brought it. At no point in this game did I feel that the U.S. brought it tonight. And maybe a couple players at different points in the night did, but never at a point was there a galvanized team that had a single mindset of how to approach this game.
It's not believable to me that, okay, did Michael Bradley have a good game or a bad game? Or was he in the middle somewhere?
I would say bad for Michael Bradley.
Yeah, bad for Michael Bradley, which I think was, it wasn't terrible.
It's the type of game I'd probably expect from Marisa Dew, to be honest with you.
Well, there you go. And I don't think Michael Bradley is that player. I know he's much better than that.
Me either.
And he's shown that he's much better than that. And I think his normal standard is much better than that. So if Michael Bradley, who's probably the most consistent player in this group, right? He's the guy we look to and go, you know what? You know what you're going to get when you put Michael Bradley on the field. If he has a game like that, then there's something else working here. And it can just be a bad night. I'm sorry if that sounds like an excuse, but it can just be a bad night. I don't think they're world beaters. And I don't think they're worse than Canada. I think that they're better than Canada and still not world beaters. And they have.
I was disappointed as well. Like, Josie Altidore finally gets in the game, and that's another player found no way into this game. Do you remember anything that Josie Altidore did in 20, 25 minutes? I can't remember what minute he came in, but I remember more about what Gooch did than what Altidore did, and they came in at the same point.
Right, made a couple of runs and couldn't get on the end of a long ball, got out wide, ended up back pass, that kind of thing.
I'll tell you this: Gooch is the best passer to the goalkeeper we have. I mean, the guy seems like every time the ball goes to his feet, it's the same thing with Brazil, going back to the keeper, and that's not Klinsmann's style. I don't know how long that's going to fly before he really has to make a change back there. But I think no matter what, Goodson and Bocanegra are your starting center backs when it comes to qualifying on Friday.
I think that has to be true. And I think the moment that we saw the bad performance against Brazil, that's Brazil. Okay. Against Canada, Aguchi Onyewu gets caught ball watching, standing static when Dirain de Rosario gets to the end line, crosses across the face of goal.
And Simeon Jackson should have put it away.
Jackson is wide open and should have put it away. And Aguchi Onyewu takes 3 steps and he's in front of Simeon Jackson. He's got to get in front of that player. He's got to get ball side, or he's.
You said it earlier in the show. Not just his feet are sluggish, but it seems like his mind is too, because he's not recognizing that he has to go to that player quick enough. And even if he does recognize it, the times when he does recognize stuff, he's not getting there fast enough. There's something not clicking with Gooch right now, and I'd rather go with Goodson at this point, because at least I can see that. I mean, by all accounts, Goodson had a good game in the air, good on the feet. Good. Even in the box, he had 2 of the better chances that he didn't put away for the U.S. On the set pieces. I'm okay with Clarence Goodson. He's not the sexy pick by any stretch, but I'm okay with him. He brings consistency to this game.
I thought he was steady, and he had a couple of recovery moments where he was very good. He was strong, keeping the ball, letting the ball run out of play when he was pressured. I thought he was the only bright spot. I really do. I don't know that there was anybody else that you could look at and say, yeah, he played a decent game. They all played substandard. And again, that leads me to believe that it was just a bad night for everybody.
Here's a scary thing. Maybe the U.S. didn't have a bad night. Maybe against Scotland, they just had a good night.
Well, I mean, but okay. Phone number is 201-430-2378 if you've got thoughts on this. What does that mean exactly? Frame that for me a little bit.
That this team is the team that this is. I mean, the team you saw out there tonight, maybe this is the real U.S. national team that's going into qualifying. Maybe Scotland is the aberration.
Okay. Then so what we saw was against Scotland was the upper ceiling, and what we saw today was their standard water level.
This might be the median.
Okay, that's a scary thought. I mean, it's possible.
But here's the thing: it's a scary thought, especially because this is your last warm-up game. This is your last warm-up game. This counts now. These games count. This isn't practice anymore. I mean, these guys have to go out there, and anything less than 5-0 against Antigua and Barbuda is scary time going into Guatemala.
Okay. I mean, there's no argument to the fact that they have inspired no confidence. And we went from a high to, okay, Brazil, whatever, bad, fine, some good, to this. and they washed it all away with one bad performance against Canada. Can't score against Canada. I mean, they didn't give up a goal. Lucky not to not have given.
They did give up a goal. It just the ref bailed them out.
Well, I mean, the whistle. The one thing I'll say about that, and I'd have to go back and look. And I'm not trying to make excuses because Edgar Castillo has to play that ball out of, has to get that ball out. The one thing I'll say is that there was a whistle. I don't know if anybody stopped or slowed down, but there was a whistle. So at some point, a player hears a whistle and stops. So I'd have to, like I said, I'd have to go back and look, but it probably should have been 1-0 Canada.
Okay, so going into the first World Cup qualifier on Friday, your preferred formation for midfield and up top. It's a 4-what for you. What do you want to see going into the first World Cup qualifier?
The best they've played is that 4-3-2-1, right? I mean, that's the best they've played. So it needs
Who's
to
your
go
3-2-1?
It's Adu, Bradley, and Jones. It's probably see that this cuts.
This is where he gets you, right?
Torres out of the team because I would want Donovan and Dempsey.
And I think Torres was the best out of those three today. I really do. I think Torres was better than Dempsey or Donovan on the day.
Okay, that's true, but
you're right. How do you put one of those two names, one of which had a hat trick 2 games ago? How do you put one of those two names on your bench? And it's frustrating as hell because I agree with you. I think it has to be those three in midfield with Bradley playing at the top of the triangle, if there is a bit of a triangle.
Right.
And then up front, I think you have to go Dempsey, Donovan, Altidore. Go with your big names. Go with your big guns. If it's not working by halftime, you're probably not going to be down at halftime. I think it's pretty safe to say. But if it's not working at halftime, you pull one of those big names and you put Jose Francisco Torres on.
I guess, but where do you? I mean, again, what? How does that change how they play? That changes how they play pretty dramatically, doesn't it? Area code 904. Who's this?
Hey guys, this is Vera again.
Hey Vera, what's up?
This terrible night and day from the Scotland game, and I don't think it comes down to tactics. I don't think it comes down to personnel. I think it's just, I don't know if they're tired, but they just were not putting the work in off the ball that they were in the Scotland game.
No,
in the Scotland game,
absolutely true.
They were pressing so hard, and in this game, you didn't see that pressure. And in the Scotland game, when they got the ball, you saw 5 guys sprinting down the field. And in this game, we're going to jog, we're going to kick it around.
The difference, thanks for the call, Vera. The difference between the Scotland game and this game is all of that training and the extra game in between. Jared, when they come in.
I'm shocked that Klinsman's gone with 2-a-days every day during this process. That's a lot. A lot of running.
I understand you want to have them fit for when the games matter, but don't run them down. That's a fine line. There was a lack of energy, and sometimes you say that, and it's just it's kind of a nebulous concept. Oh, they're just not energetic out there. The difference between, like Vera said, Scotland and how they moved and changed positions and the ball, the ball dictated where everybody was playing. That didn't happen tonight. And
think about it this way. This is 3 away games essentially, because you're traveling between every game in a matter of 1 week with 2-a-days every day in between. Right. That's asking a lot of these players, and it's easy to second guess them when the result doesn't come out right.
Area code 619. Who's this?
Hey, how you guys doing again? I'm Enrique. How do you guys feel about Cameron and Goodson supplying the forwards in the midfield?
Well, okay, thanks for the call, Enrique. That's number 2. You're on probation now. The Cameron and Goodson aren't going to play together because Bocanegra is going to be there. I don't know. Gooch is probably out at this point. I mean,
I think at this point that was him just trying to give Bocanegra a rest a bit. I think same thing with Donovan. You bring Donovan out, you rest some of your big names that have played most of the minutes the first 2 games, and it gives you a second look at Onyewu. I don't think it's more about building a tandem there because Bocanegra is your guy. If Bocanegra goes down though, Bocanegra gets hurt, this team's in trouble.
Yeah, there's some. I mean, again, what comes after Guatemala? Okay, you've got this set of 2. It's Antigua and Barbuda. Nobody thinks there's problems, and if there is problems, then okay, fine. Maybe we should stop playing international soccer. And then there's Guatemala and Guatemala. What's next after that? Do we know what the schedule looks like? I honestly haven't looked that far ahead because I've been focused on this.
I remember. I just know that there's rumors of a Russia friendly, and I'm forgetting everything after that. I've been so concentrated on these games.
I think Russia comes in November. I think there's plans for a Mexico friendly in August. So if we run up against Mexico playing like this, And that's all I heard.
The Mexico that beat Brazil 2-0 today?
Yeah, and I watched some of that game. Okay, well, the first is a penalty, and Gio goes down like with the breeze. Or no, the second one. The first one was Gio dos Santos with the kind of chip cross, and it goes in. They beat Brazil, and you can't take that away from them. And I'm tired of hearing that Mexico is light years ahead of the U.S. We know. I know. I've heard it 1,000 times. Okay, Mexico is better than the USA. They just are right now. Okay, I don't know what else. Why that's the measuring stick? You know what the measuring stick is? It's qualifying. Does that require you to beat Mexico? No, not it doesn't.
The measuring stick is because every day when I go to work, I have to defend the USA to a bunch of Mexican Americans that love Mexico. That's the measuring stick, because every day it's in my face of how different, how disparate the U.S. and the Mexican national teams are. That's the true statement. I mean, it's rough to be the second-class citizen when you were out and around. It's bad. It's hard enough being an American soccer fan to Americans. It's hard to be an American soccer fan to Mexican Americans that choose Mexico first.
Back your team no matter what. I mean, I'm not going to feel ashamed of my team. They're going out. I mean, if they're not good enough, they're not good enough. We don't know that yet, and that's what I'm saying. I don't know. It's a good place to plug the Mad About Football show, featuring friends of ours that are joining the North American Soccer Network.
Juan Harajo. Gentlemen from ESPN Deportes. They're going to have a much more world flavor to their soccer analysis. If you like the world game, if you want some coverage of South America, Central America, this is going to be the show for you. A lot of guys that really know their stuff. To check them out, it premieres on Tuesday. Mad About Football show.
Yeah, we've got a couple of minutes. If you want to get in, 201-430-2378 if you haven't already called. If you've already called, just swallow it and carry it on to next week. Anything else? I mean, really, how do we wrap this up? Other than it was just a forgettable day. I want those 2 hours back. I want to go watch Game of Thrones now. We didn't.
Yeah, I know. It better not be nearly as of a letdown as I just had here. Are you up to date on Game of Thrones, by the way? We talked, you hadn't watched last week's episode.
I'm up. I'm fully up to date. I'm not. I'm not aware of what the spoiler rules though are. So I don't know what our for our listenership. I don't know if people are still trying to catch up or they're watching it on a different schedule. I don't want to be spoiler guy. Do we want?
Let's do a spoiler right now. Does Cal FC win against Seattle on Tuesday?
Oh wow. I'm gonna say no. I think the magic runs out because Seattle takes this thing pretty damn seriously. They put a beating on Atlanta, and I'm not saying that it's a given Atlanta is better than Cal FC, but I think Seattle is going to want to avoid the embarrassment, and they're going to do everything possible. They want to have on the Timbers the fact that they're the ones that knocked out Cal FC. I think that
it's a pretty big emotional high to come down off of beating that Portland team in overtime. That's a lot of minutes on those bodies that probably don't play nearly as regularly as these guys in Seattle do and have the type of facilities at their disposal, masseuses, trainers, all these people that can try to get their bodies ready after a game like that. It's going to be a lot to overcome. Do I want to see it happen? Of course. Who doesn't want this story to keep going?
Yeah, absolutely. It's Hoosiers. It's the Bad News Bears. I actually think it's more Bad News Bears than Hoosiers, but I don't know.
But Bad News Bears almost comes with a negative stereotype to it.
It does. I know it does, but I'm not saying any of those kids are like any of the kids on Bad News Bears.
So you're saying Eric Winalda is basically Walter Matthau?
Is that what I'm saying? No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying at all. Area code 803. Last call. Who's this?
Hey, this is Bob.
Hey, Bob.
I was at the game in Jacksonville, and the one thing I noticed that we haven't seen the last two games is Boyd really created problems. He's a big when you see him on field, he's a big guy,
right?
And I wonder if that's a problem we have. Also with the future schedule, we have back-to-back Jamaica in September.
Okay, so there you go.
That's a scary team too. Jamaica's playing really well last year or so.
They have talent. Yeah, they have talent. That's a bit, and that's a good point about Terrence Boyd. The thing about Terrence Boyd is not only is a big player who commands a lot of attention just because of his size and the fact that he can hold the ball up, he also worked tirelessly to make runs and create space. Right. So I mean, to be honest with you, I'll be completely honest with you. I wasn't watching Hercules Gomez to see what his work rate was and whether or not he was doing that same kind of thing. Seems to me Herc's game is dropping back, checking back for the ball, and he ends up out wide. He's trying to take players on. Maybe he's trying to make a late run into the box. He's not going to be the guy to stretch the defense. Right?
He's going to be the opportunistic striker that's going to pounce on anything inside the 6 to around the 12-yard line. That's his role on this team. He's supposed to be a poacher, and now he's a poacher with really good energy that's going to hopefully force the defense into mistakes. That's his role, and I think that's Boyd kind of plays a little bit of that too. He's got that energy to try to force the mistakes, but he has the ability to get up. He has the ability to beat a defender and body one up. I'm not necessarily sure Hercules Gomez has that, but Hercules Gomez is a proven finisher, and Boyd's got to get a little bit of that. He had an opportunity in the box on a rebound last game. Keeper made a good save. That was going to be his first goal. But I do want to see more Terrence Boyd, that's for sure.
All right, so we are out of this first set of 3 games. Okay, we've done a live game show for game show. That doesn't sound right. What are we calling this thing?
We need to have more giveaways to be called a game show.
Yeah, but I don't. Yeah, I need to be Richard Dawson if we're going to call this a game show.
Oh, rest in peace, Richard Dawson. That man kissed more ladies than I don't know who, but he kissed a lot of ladies.
What is his line in The Running Man? He says something about who do you love?
Who do you love?
Something, and who do you love? And I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, it's American. Who do you love?
So let's call this the best soccer show special edition. I don't know, whatever this is. Okay, extra. I don't know.
Why do you have labels on it? Like, are we official? Are we like
Stradiganza? No, that's not going to work. All right, but we've come out of the first 3. The schedule throws us off a little bit because I think the next game is Friday. Is that right?
Game is Friday. That's correct.
Friday night in Tampa. So I put this to you, Jared. Are we doing a show between now and Friday, or are we doing Friday? What's the deal?
Why don't we have the listeners keep checking our Facebook and Twitter status and make sure they're following us in both places and they can find out.
Okay. Go to facebook.com/bestsoccershow. Find out what our schedule is. We're certainly doing a show for Friday. It's just whether or not we do a show between now and then. I'm not sure there's going to be a lot to talk about. And that's a major issue here.
If Cal FC wins, we'll do a show.
Okay, how about that? Yeah, put it all on Winalda's shoulders. If Cal FC wins, we'll do a show. It won't be entirely Cal FC, but we'll do a show. And maybe we'll have plenty of U.S. Open Cup stuff to talk about. All right, show@bestsoccershow.com is our email address. Best Soccer Show is our Twitter account. Jared, iTunes, ratings and reviews. What else? I think
that's about it. Like we said, check out Mad About Football. It premieres on Tuesday on NASN.TV.
And if you wanted to call in and couldn't, if you couldn't listen live, leave us a message. 201-430-2378 is the phone number, and you can leave us a message at any time. And again, Facebook is very important. If we don't do a regular show between now and Friday, we'll definitely do a Facebook special. And we're doing some special content at Facebook just for people who like us there. So do that, and you can get all of the stuff we're doing. I think that's it, right? We're done. Thanks a lot, U.S. national team, for wasting my 2 hours. I appreciate it. Okay? Now take care of business against Antigua and Barbuda, please. Bye, guys.